Once you learn how to do that, then you can bring in all the stakeholders and you can get into programs that'll help you and train you on how to build it. But that first step is you have to design a business model that is desirable.
When I initially moved back to Pensacola, I had a meeting with Lloyd. Lloyd invited me for breakfast and I was telling him, man, I still have an idea for the entertainment industry. This is what I wanted to do. He was like, all right, I got started up on the blocks. So I need you to start coming to Start Up on the Blocks and get a little more information on how to work through the tech ecosystem and take your idea and we'll get you where you need to go. My company is called The Know, is an app that is streamlining business for the entertainment industry. Yeah, so if you're a musician, what you would do is pretty much jump on the platform, you'll create a profile, but the way we created the profile is pretty much a cleaner way. So now if they want more information about you, you'll connect your social media platforms, your streaming platforms, and that way they can go directly to it. What we also have included is your calendar. So pretty much you can set your days, you can set your price for your days and automate your booking. So initially talking to Lloyd, my idea was all here, it was there, it was over here, it was over there. It was like, all right, Quinn, I get it. You got a lot that you want to do, but we need you to bring it in just a little bit and then work on your pitch, your story, and how you're going to bring it full circle to get people to understand what you're trying to create.
Most of the programs here wasn't inclusive, and so we said we'll focus on helping founders of color. We also start at the beginning of the thing, at the idea stage, whereas a lot of the programs you see here locally, they start after you're up, and that's not very efficient unless if you don't have a lot of money, you can't recover from your mistakes. And the lean startup system, it actually helps you make mistakes faster before you spend a lot of money. You don't actually start building anything until you got customer buy-in.
There was a need for small businesses to bring brand awareness to their business. I see there's a lot of makers and bakers that they're making all of these goodies and these products, but they can't market it, they can't sell it at the same time, and there needs to be kind of like that middleman, that middle person to help bring economic growth to some of the small businesses in Pensacola. So Taste of Pensacola, I came up with that idea during the pandemic when I saw things at that time that Amazon couldn't fulfill. They didn't even have those products, but the local people in the community, they did. And so there was a ton of people coming out saying, hey, I make masks. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. All the local people here that are just as talented that can actually make those products. And so I wanted to kind of showcase who they were. So with Taste of Pensacola, our income streams, we have several of them. We have the corporate America, we do corporate gifting, just regular consumers, different Pensacola natives that don't live here that want to purchase our boxes, like a taste of weddings, distribution. So we also do bulk sales. So for a private airline, if they want some local snacks and goodies on their passenger flights, they will come to Taste of Pensacola and we will source their vendors here locally. And we'll give a small business owner an opportunity to have reoccurring monthly sales. I've always had a really big vision for Taste of Pensacola. I knew that it could go beyond just local. I know that maybe other communities could possibly use the same platform that I'm trying to build. And I always have these big visions, but I never know how to even get there. Where do I start? I know it's more than, there's a lot of technical things behind it. I know there's a lot of research, but that connection, I never had it until, thankfully, I met and was introduced to Startups on the Blocks and was able to just learn more about how to grow it in terms of data. Things I just never thought about, framework, words like traction. There's a lot of things that I just did not know about and language that I need to know in order to get funding for my business. There's just a lot that I didn't know.
I would go to the stores and look online. They didn't have a wide variety of natural hair products about 8 years ago. And the ones that they did have, the ingredients, it would say that they were all natural. And when I would research the ingredients, a lot of the ingredients were not natural. I make everything, my shampoo, conditioner, I have an oil that I make, and I have 2 different separate butters. Like I had some people who were completely bald and grew their hair. It's about giving women their confidence back in their hair. I have this salon and I have a second salon, and I have my products in about 5 beauty supply stores. So I need a manufacturer to keep up with the demand at this point. Startup on the Blocks has helped my business grow, send me to different people. I'm able to do different pitch competitions to apply for grants in the community for small businesses. Lloyd's a really good person to connect with. He has a lot of resources here in the community that can help small businesses grow. If you have a product out there and you're trying to go big time, he's the person that you would want to meet with.
So it's really important to have some type of support because 9 times out of 10, most founders start out on their own. And to have somebody that has an idea of how the ecosystem works and is able to tap into other resources and bring back to the community, and that pretty much has encountered some of the roadblocks or going through the same roadblocks that we're currently going through and understands where you're at, your culture and how you respond to things, is a big help because you don't really have too many people that have access to what we have access to here in the community. And a lot of people believe that you have to leave and go to bigger cities to do the things that we're doing here. But I mean, it's one thing to have exposure, but you have to actually know it's here in the community in order to take advantage of the resources. So I get approached and I talk to friends all the time that wants to either start an idea or hear that I'm actually doing the app and wants to know more information about how are you doing it or what's the process, what's the path. I'm like, man, we have somebody here, Startup on the Blocks, Lloyd Richard. And Lloyd is here, he's a great resource to the community and to founders that's trying to learn the ecosystem. So join Startup on the Blocks.
Hello there, Caleb. You can come back on the camera now. Caleb, turn your mic on. And so we can get started here. Hey, Caleb, how are you?
Hey, I'm very well, thank you, sir.
All righty. Good to see you. Glad to have you here for our startup best practices session, and we're going to get going here. First, I'm going to give a little shout out to our sponsors and thank them for supporting what we're doing there. You and I, we just left a Synapse conference. Yes, and so that. What did you think about that?
No, it was fantastic. Lots of good contacts. And as you know, for me, I had an opportunity to stand on center stage and
Congratulations.
So pitch my technology, and so it was fantastic. And obviously, without Synapse, I wouldn't have had an opportunity to meet yourself, and I'm excited about that.
Right. We'll get more into that a little bit later about the conference, but it was fantastic. So they're one of our partners, and what the whole idea is to try to get this innovation ecosystem spread out all over the state of Florida. So the Core Institute job is to cover Northwest Florida, and so we're happy to do that, and happy to kind of also provide some inclusion, into the innovation ecosystem here in Florida. Another one of our sponsors, partners, the Blacks in Technology Foundation. If you're not already involved in that, we definitely want to get you in that too, Caleb.
Okay.
Yeah. And an idea behind that is just to kind of get more Black people into tech-related career fields and stuff like that, and it just helps people, with free training, discount training. We partnered with them to actually provide startup founder training for the members. And so that was good. We did about 200 of their members last year, with the startup training. So that was really fantastic. Florida Power and Light. I don't know if you had a chance to meet any of those folks yet. They supported us. They actually, in addition to sponsoring our training and our Black Founder program here in Florida, they also, provide us with some extra tickets, for our founders to go to the Synapse conference. So that's a pretty neat deal there. We also are supported by both of the local chambers up here and the Small Business Development Center, Industry Hotels. When we got started 3.5 years ago, they sponsored about maybe 4 or 5 of our pitch competitions. So they're a really good partner. Okay. Renaissance Bank, good partner. The First Bank, and yes, just a lot of good things. So this year, our strategy is to partner with more companies that can help us support founders.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, and so you see that little robot thing called Pitch Bob. So that's one of our partners that offers AI technology to help founders with their all their business stuff. And so it's pretty fantastic as well. Our members, startup members, get their products at half price.
Okay.
So that's a good deal. All righty. So let's see what else we got here. I'll let you take a minute or so to introduce yourself.
Okay. So before I do, let me just say that I love what you're doing.
Thank you.
One of my vision is to, in the not too distant future, it really was to kind of create an incubate accelerator similar to what I'm part of at USF.
Yes.
And in meeting you, what I've realized is I don't have to go reinvent the wheel.
Right.
I can simply come and help to fund what you're doing.
Right.
What you're essentially doing is you're creating a bridge to help founders. So I absolutely applaud. Okay, so in terms of introduction, Caleb Williams. My background is financial services. I spent 15 years at Citibank. My last role, I was based in Budapest, Hungary. I had responsibility for the movement of work across Europe, Middle East, Asia, and Africa. And what that basically means is that, so I moved to Europe in 2010. And if you recall, the whole banking industry was in trouble.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah.
We dispatched guys like myself all over the globe in different, areas of the company to cut costs, right? And my job specifically was to move jobs from higher to lower cost locations. So I had teams across the globe that would implement standardized, what we call standardized ERP accounting systems.
Yes. Okay.
Once we standardize the work, then instead of paying an accountant £100,000 in London, we could have that same work done for 20,000 US in, say, Budapest.
Gotcha.
We built centers of excellence in Budapest, in Dalian, China, and in Dalian we were able to support Korea and China and Japan. We had a center in Manila that supported most of Southeast Asia. We had a center in Mumbai and Chennai. And so that was my task, right?
That's a major task. Yeah, that sounds like you had a lot of confidence in you.
And so there was a time, Lloyd, where I literally had about 70 or 80 projects running across 3/4 of the globe.
Wow.
And, it was just get those jobs moved and get those savings. So that's a little bit about my background.
Fantastic. Yeah, and so we're gonna get into a little bit more of that on that journey there, and also learn a little bit more about how do you pronounce it? SprainGo.
SprainGo.
Okay, all right. So yeah, we'll dive a little deep into that, and I'm really excited about what you're doing there. So
I appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay, next week we're going to have Adrian Cole, and I think he's in the product management, product marketing, and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, he's just launching a new startup, called Spiral Candy Studio, and so we're going to look forward to hearing from him. He's down there in Miami. Yes. So, and I told you a little bit about working, and so last year. It was pretty busy. We have about 10 mentors that actually mentor our coaches. We call them coaches, actually, lean stack coaches. So they got certified in the lean startup methodology, and so we leveraged them to kind of do 6 30-day business model design workshops. And so that was an awesome effort by all of those, because they had to literally coach the founders through the training. So it was pretty challenging, and they definitely pulled it off. We also did one 90-day launch program last year too, So that was with bid as well. So lot of stuff happened last year, and just want to commend all the people that joined in and helped out. And what we learned from that, Caleb, is that we got to figure out a way, if we want to reach more founders, we got to figure out a way to get the founders up to speed, a lot faster. And so we got some ideas on that, and that's what we're going to be doing this year.
Okay.
Yeah. So so we're going to continue all our best practice things like we're doing with you today, and sharing that. And then so this Black Founders Innovation Summit coming up in April. What we want there is to have people that are having some success like you, and we're gonna do put some of those founders on a panel discussion and kind of share the journey, and extend an open invitation to you to participate in that, because I think the journey that you went on so far will be valuable. We actually have a couple of founders, maybe more here in Pensacola that are in the space where they've created products, natural products, but I don't think they have the insight that you have on how you did your product. And so I think that would be really inspirational to kind of move forward with that. But I will spend a second on that. So it's going to be in partnership with the Black Innovation Leaders of Florida, Blacks in Technology, the Black Innovation Alliance. So it's going to be a bunch of organizations that's all about innovation. And we're going to try to help founders and their team members make sure they understand all the best practices for doing innovation. Okay. So and also we're going to have a session on the mindset of innovation. We got Dr. LaTanya White coming in for that. We have one of the Black Innovation Leaders of Florida going to come in and do a workshop on keeping track of all the data that from your business processes, and also from your startup, whatever product or service you got. I think just all the data. Like in your case, you're selling a product, so you want to keep track of all that customer data, and then what you want to do is you want to figure out how to use AI to model that data, and so you can do some predictions on what's going to happen next. And then we're going to have that founder panel where some successful founders share their experience. I met a female founder down there. She had been in the Google for Black founders, 150K, no strings attached. She had been into the JP Morgan Chase program, 250K with just a little equity. They took a small amount of equity for that. She also had another program that she got 500K. You see what I'm saying? And leveraging these programs to kind of keep moving forward. So that's kind of what the deal is at. And then our final panel will be about capital. So we have some people connected to the venture capital space to kind of share some best practices there. That should be a pretty awesome event. Okay. Looking forward to that. And the other new thing we're going to do this year is this business idea boot camp. And so that's sole purpose of that is to kind of help the person that just starting out with an idea, to kind of get them use AI to help them formulate their business plan and lean canvas, business model canvas, all kind of stuff, all in a matter of about 3 hours. Okay. And come out there with a lot of documentation that so they can start putting their idea on paper and seeing how to communicate their ideas. So we're looking forward to that.
Brilliant. That's brilliant. Yep.
Yeah, and it's basically it's overwhelming when you don't know what to do or what path that you have to follow. And so it sounds like you leveraged that University of South Florida program to help you out quite a bit. And so that we'll definitely want to hear more about that. But the way we actually look at the phases that a founder has to go through, we use this chart to kind of show from Startup Commons,
it shows kind of like the phases that the founders go through. And so when you look at from -2, that's at the idea stage, and +3 is at the kind of like the growth stage and scaling up. So you have to literally go through those startup development phases, and so but the good news is you get help at no matter what stage you're at.
Right.
Yeah. So what do you think? You think because if you're a new founder, how do you know what the path is?
Well, it's a great question, and I think most founders generally start with, I can do something well, and I think I should form a business, or I
Yeah.
should form a company, right? And so, if you would kind of go back to that prior slide, you talked about,
Okay.
From ideation all the way to growth.
Yeah.
And so I think you and I were having a conversation yesterday that, every founder obviously wants funding.
Yes.
The understanding that for most of us, right, if you have a rich parent, rich uncle, whatever the case,
Yeah.
you could get funding at ideation. You
Yes.
get funding at validation, but
Yes.
that's generally not the case, our reality. And so,
Right.
so in that embryonic stage, it's really, I call it laying the foundation, right?
Yes, that's
And
exactly right.
so one of the examples that I often share is that, when the Twin Towers went down in New York, if you ever visited,
Yeah.
you would just see a big hole for
Yeah.
years. And
Yeah.
people are like, well, why aren't they doing anything? Why is there's a hole? Not
Yeah.
understanding that they had to go 3 football fields deep down,
Wow.
laying the foundation in order to
Wow.
go 3 stories up, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so steps -2 to 2
Yeah.
is going 3 football fields down, where most
Fantastic. I
people
like
aren't
that.
seeing what you're doing. They're not seeing the hard work, right?
Yeah.
They only see when the building gets erected.
Yes.
But if you don't put in that hard work, that foundational work,
Yes.
meaning putting your business, setting up your big business legally, getting your accounting in place, getting all of those things in place,
Mhm.
it's unlikely that you could get to number 3. And if you get there, it's difficult to be sustainable, right?
Yeah.
And so whether it's a business or a company, it's about laying the foundation.
That's a great way to put it. And 80% of the startups, they never reach that growth stage. They run out of money before they reach that growth stage. But one of the best practices is to leverage the ecosystem at that -2, that -1, and that 0. And
Yes.
so, so that's kind of their resources that the ecosystem or nonprofits and for-profits, they provide resources for startup founders, but you have to be working on a scalable business idea, something you have to be solving a big problem.
Correct.
And so, like in your case, you think you're solving a big problem with your startup?
Well, so the problem that I am solving is really twofold. So over 100 years ago, my grandmother discovered, in fact, she was a community healer back in Trinidad,
Okay.
1800s, early 1900s. And so she discovered a plant ingredient that had extraordinary restorative properties. And
Okay.
community healer, she knew every bush, every herb, everything that had medicinal properties.
Yeah.
And so I rediscovered one of her remedies back in 2013.
Gotcha.
My son was an aspiring professional soccer player at the time. He was invited to a weekend tryout at a professional club, sprained his ankle. My big brother happened to be in attendance, and my big brother said, "Why don't we apply the family remedy?" My response was, "What family remedy?" Right? So as it turned out, my grandmother, who was the community healer, only disclosed sources and methods to my mother, and she had 9 children, but she only told my mother. My
Wow.
mother, who had 12 children, only told my big brother.
Wow.
When my son sprained his ankle, we took the family remedy, put on my son's ankle. His ankle recovered overnight.
Wow.
Now, as a former athlete myself, I've had a lot of ankle sprains. Mine never recovered overnight. Right. And so when I witnessed what would best be described, Lloyd, as a modern day miracle, first thing I Googled, well, how many ankle sprains are treated every year? And just the 9 million that are treated by a medical practitioner every year, which means it's probably double that, because most people don't go to a doctor.
Yeah.
And so that's really how it all started. And so after that incident, I then started testing everybody that we could find that had an acute injury, because we thought that's what it did. So I actually named the company SprainGo.
Right? Okay, gotcha. Okay, I see what you mean. I see where it comes from now.
Right. So every person that we tested that had, that type of acute injury, they had a similar result as my son. So then people started asking, well, would your grandmother's remedy work on my arthritis, my fibromyalgia, my neuropathy, my lupus, my this, that? We're like, well, we don't know. And so over the course of the next 2 years, we made about 200 samples. We tested 200 people, and we used a tool called SurveyMonkey, right, for traceability, where they would enter before and after. Lloyd, 85% of them reported some level of relief.
Wow.
70% reported relief lasting greater than 24 hours. 35% reported relief lasting more than 2 days. When we had tallied all of the results, I took it to a friend who's a pain management MD. He said, Caleb, this is not a clinical study, but he said, I'll tell you one thing. People lie about a lot of things, but they generally don't lie about pain. Now, it may be subjective, right? Pain is subjective, but they're going to tell you their before and after. He said there is no product, synthetic, drug, natural, that can match these results. And so that was really the impetus.
Yes.
And when he made those comments to me, I realized that what my grandmother had discovered over 100 years earlier was something special.
Yes.
Right? And so from there, I made a first generation brand called Relieve It.
Okay.
And literally, because in order to get into the incubator at USF here in Tampa, I couldn't just go give them a story.
Gotcha.
I had to have something tangible to say, here's 100 years of anecdotal evidence, but here's a brand.
Gotcha.
And so we took that to USF in 2018, and that's how I was able to get into the incubator. And then obviously things kind of took off from there.
Good. So yeah, we definitely gonna review that story. But the fantastic thing about that story you just told, it connects you to the problem you're solving.
Yes.
Firsthand experience, and it's a story that you can, when you're out there pitching, you can begin off with a story like that, and people immediately know know what problem you're solving, and they get an idea about it before you even get to the problem slide, and that's what I like about that. But what we're gonna back up a little bit here, because the way you explained this slide, I think that was brilliant how you actually explained it. And so so this next slide is basically the same thing, but it's using the lean startup methodology. And so the foundation in this case, where you're at that -2 to 0, your business model design. And so you have to get a solid business model of whatever your idea is, and the business model becomes the product, because and then you go pitching your business model to get the money you need to get past that zero stage.
That's right.
And in the startup ecosystem, that's how it works. So that learning how to pitch your business model clearly and concisely is the actual foundation. And once you can do that, you can explain your business model when you're filling out an application to get in, like the program that you got in, or you can compete in a pitch competition. You haven't built anything yet, but it's just that's what the foundation is. And then you try to reach these other milestones like problem solution fit, solution customer fit, and this product market fit in the pink. And that's the challenge every startup has, is trying to get to that stage where in the darker pink and to get to that scale stage in the real light pink. And so this is the kind of like it's like a traction roadmap, and it's just trying to show you, if you follow these phases, like when you see this 3-month period there at the end of the orange, yeah. And so you're literally by that time you reach that problem solution fit. That means you design a solution for the problem you solve, and there's some details on how you do that. But the bottom line is you haven't even built your product there. You're actually pitching it before you build it, and you're getting money in sales before you build it. Especially like when a software product or whatever, you're taking orders before you actually develop the solution. Correct. And so, so that's kind of what that one is. And then this is another way to look at the same thing is we have a partner with Startup Science, and this is how they look at it. You start off with a vision or an idea, and what their approach is, they're gonna train you everything you need to know to get to an exit. And the guy who created this program, he had went through 12 exits, built and sold 12 companies. And so everything he learned from that, all that knowledge he learned from that, he put it in the training program. And we provide that to founders for free.
No, that's brilliant. Okay.
You see what I'm saying? And this program back here is from Lean Stack. Ash Murray, the guy who invented the Lean Canvas from the business model canvas. And he's been working with accelerator programs of, investors, universities all over the world, corporations all over the world, and thousands of startups has used this methodology to actually, most of the products you see on the market today, they went through this particular process. So that's the most fantastic thing. And so what like you said, in your case, you said, why reinvent the wheel?
That's right. Absolutely.
Take what some successful people have already done and make it available to founders so they can get the knowledge they need to kind of move forward.
No, and you're absolutely right. And so the model that you share, I think it absolutely would fit probably 90% of most startups. If you're a life sciences company like mine, that months is more like 5 years.
Yes.
Of all of the science that's involved, but the methodology, the process remains absolutely. And so while you're conducting science, right, the more positive findings you have in the science. So for me, when I took my ingredient to USF, they did a study and they confirmed that it's a natural anti-inflammatory. That's a checkpoint. Right. So with that, people get excited. Then they isolated the most active fraction. It was confirmed as the first plant-derived drug discovery credited to Black-owned company in U.S. history. That's an important check mark.
Yeah.
Then by accident, Lloyd, we discovered that it prevents muscle soreness.
Yes. Okay.
All right. And so just for your audience, let me kind of contextualize that.
Okay.
And so there have been two problems that's faced athletes since the dawn of time. Right. One of those problems which was rehydration, was solved 57 years ago by Gatorade.
Yes.
The other problem, which is delayed onset muscle soreness or DOMS, has remained unsolved until now. And so for your audience, for anyone who has done any type of exercise, you wake up a day or two later and you're sore, that's DOMS, right? And so my company has solved DOMS.
Yes. And so like I'm gonna do some research on that because I was always told that lactic acid that builds up in your muscles, is what was the problem.
So would you
And
like me to explain that?
yeah, go ahead. Go
Okay.
ahead.
So,
Yeah.
so many years ago, scientists believed that it was lactic acid that caused the delayed soreness. What
Gotcha.
we now know is that when you're in a game or you're at the gym and you're feeling that burn, that's the
Hmm.
lactic acid. But what causes the delayed soreness is microscopic tears in your muscles that triggers a cascade of inflammation. That inflammation is what leads to the soreness 24, 48 hours down the road.
Okay, gotcha.
What
Now that
my
makes sense.
ingredient does when you apply it preventatively, right,
Mhm.
proactively, it
Uh-huh.
controls that cascade of inflammation. And where there's no inflammation, there's minimal
Yeah.
to no soreness.
So, but are you saying you can actually, if you know you're going to be out there playing a football game or a basketball game, you can actually put it on before?
So we've tested hundreds of endurance athletes,
Uh-huh.
endurance runners, gym goers. Even the Dallas Cowboys have used our products for the last couple of years, and
Okay.
everyone's applying it before they exercise. And
Wow.
that's the novelty of what we have, right? So
Mhm.
every modality today, you play sports, whatever, and you're treating the symptoms after the
Yeah.
fact,
Right.
right? So my new brand, which is called Pre-Cover, that will launch this summer, is
Okay.
the world's first preventative solution for DOMS.
You got to be kidding. That's really fantastic. Yeah. So, audience, I know if you have any questions, feel free to chime in um, and ask questions. But I think what we need to peel the onion back and kind of so folks can understand. You told them a little bit about your banking career, but we want to see how everything sort of ties together. So, like, when you were in high school or whatever, did you think you were going to be a banker, or do you think you're going to be doing your grandmother's remedy?
So I'm going to tell you a funny story.
Okay.
First of all, back in high school, I wanted to be a professional soccer player.
Oh,
That's
soccer player. Okay.
all I ever
So,
wanted to do, right?
yeah. So is soccer the popular sport
Yeah,
in Trinidad?
yeah. It's the number one sport outside of the United States in the world.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Gotcha.
that's all I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I went to college, went to Northeast Louisiana University on a soccer scholarship,
Okay.
and had a cup of coffee as a professional player, but nothing to write home about.
Yeah.
So my mother said, "Boy, get your butt back in school, finish your degree, and get a job." So, but so I'd been an entrepreneur all my life. My father was an entrepreneur, so
Okay.
I lived in Denver for 10 years. I own a childcare center.
Wow. Okay.
When
I
I
never would have
moved,
thought that.
yeah, when I moved to Tampa with Citibank, I bought a coin laundry. I owned
Wow.
property and so forth. So I was always planning my exit because I always thought that if you could plan your exit while you're at the top of your game, right?
Yeah.
And so I was in the top 10% of a company with 300,000 employees. So I'm like, this is the time to plan my exit. But I didn't
Gotcha.
know what that exit was. So I was just kind of dibbling and dabbling with stuff.
Yeah.
So
So let me
Mhm.
stop you for a second there. You use that term exit. Most people don't use that term when they're planning how to leave corporate. It is an exit, but the first thing I thought of is like a startup. You plan your exit.
Mhm.
Yeah.
No,
Go ahead.
so in April of 2012, I'm in Manila, and I've got a conference call planned with some senior executives in Tokyo because I'm telling them I'm taking out 100 heads, meaning employees,
Yeah.
out of Tokyo. My boss happened to be in town, so he said, "Hey, can I sit in on your call?" And
Uh-huh.
can't tell the boss no. He
Yeah.
said,
Yeah.
so the call went so well that he turns to me at the end and he says with a smile, "You've missed your calling." And we both kind of chuckle. But as I exited the conference room, something drops in my spirit and said, "He's right. You have missed your calling." Now
Okay.
I'm thinking that meant a bigger role at Citibank, right? Now at
Yeah.
the time, you know, I'm doing stuff across 3 continents, but I'm
Yeah.
like, so, but he said you missed your calling. So that evening at dinner, I said, you know, boss, I've been working for you for 7 years, and I was in year 2 of my expat assignment. I had 1 year remote. I said, you know, when I look at your organization, I don't see that next big role. I would like you to help me find maybe a bigger role outside of your organization.
Yeah.
Lloyd, the man turned to me and said, you know, most bosses would be offended. I'm like, really? And he said, but I'm not that kind of guy. Well, as it turned out, he was that kind of guy.
Yes.
But the beauty and the goodness of God, and I've always had incredible favor, is that for 3 years, Citibank paid my bills domestically and my bills internationally. I was
Got it.
able to save more money in a 3-year period than probably my entire adult life.
Wow. Okay.
Okay. So then I come back to Tampa at the end of my assignment, and the boss who would not be offended, he didn't lift a straw, according to a person that in HR that I trust. Didn't
Yeah.
make a phone call, didn't write an email, did nothing, because a bigger job meant I would be on his level. Then I was
Right. Right.
right. I'm a director. He's a managing director.
Okay.
And so, and then shortly after I returned to the States, my son sprained his ankle,
Gotcha.
and that right that
Uh-huh.
when he talked about missing my calling, everything began to line up. Now, I didn't realize that what I had would take me a decade because of the magnitude of it. But, you know,
Gotcha. Yeah, but so let me just ask a question. So what was your when he said you missed your calling?
yep,
So you said you thought that you should have been higher in the company, but
yeah.
what did you find out that it really meant for you?
Well, I didn't understand what that calling was until my son sprained his ankle.
Okay, gotcha. It,
Right.
it appeared to you at
So
that minute. Okay.
exactly. And so the way that things had worked out, I got that 3-year period to secure myself financially.
Yes.
Able to leave City with maybe not a golden parachute, but a parachute nonetheless.
Yes.
And so I could exit comfortably, right?
Yeah.
With the funding to get my company started.
Gotcha.
And so when he said missed your calling, I now understand it clearly that my calling is to bring a natural anti-inflammatory ingredient to this world, own it and control it in a way that no other person, no other Black person in the entire world has ever done. That is my calling.
Fantastic. That's I really get it. But like Dr. Latanya White, um, uh, so she talks about the ultra wealthy and this idea of having legacy of wealth, like the Rockefellers and all those families like that. It takes like 3 generations.
Yes.
And so, but one of the things she talks about is passing information from one generation to the next. So she was saying they literally train their children so they can pass it on to their children and so on and so forth.
Yes.
And so when you describe what your grandmother did, she passed it to your mother, and your mother passed it to your older brother, you said?
That's right.
Yeah, so that's like passing that generational knowledge, which also equates to wealth.
Correct. And so let me take that a step further, because what
Yeah.
I am doing now, my son is being trained to run this company and take it into the future.
Yes.
I have 2 girls. At some point, they will come in and they will play a role. And
Gotcha.
so the way that I describe it, Lloyd, is that I left a good life to create a great life for generations to come.
Yes, that's exactly right. That's what the whole point is. And Dr. White's, thing is families needs to start doing that. Black families that need to start doing that. But all those ultra wealthy people, and if you look around now, they're the future generations are just living off that wealth that was created, and a lot of them don't. There's no company. It's just a foundation that's left. You know,
That
it's
is,
it's it's
yes,
pretty amazing. But
it is.
so you definitely have an example of who would have thought that wealth, could, or I guess you could come from that, but the beautiful thing is your um your what you learned from Citibank, all that management stuff and connecting resources, all that stuff seems to have played a role. And plus all the fact that you have been participating in all these entrepreneurship activities all that time, it was literally preparing you for your calling.
It is. And so I described the 15 years at Citi as my apprenticeship
Yeah.
period. I didn't know it at the time, but
Yeah.
looking back, right, I'm actually writing a book called Legacy on Earth. And as I go through the chapters, I realize, oh my God, all the travels around the globe, all the big meetings, all the different things. So in June, my pre-cover branch will not just launch in the United States, it will launch in the UK. Last night, one of my former employees from the Philippines, so I put a clip on Facebook about Synapse.
Yeah.
He said, look, I want to put a group together to become your distributor in the Philippines. So we may launch in 3 countries in June. And so because my experience is global, I don't just think about launching in the United States.
Yeah.
And when we have
kind of
describe,
interesting.
when we have more time, I'll describe how many the opportunities that there are internationally and how the U.S. Department of Commerce helps to shepherd that and provide funding and so forth. Because I don't know if many of your founders are aware of that.
Yeah. So I think that's really great. So let's just make sure we got the story right. So you were an athlete in high school, but your family was in all the business stuff. But as a child, did you notice anything about, was your grandmother still living when you were a child?
No, I have just a vague memory of my grandmother. I think she was, probably unwell in bed. I remember long gray hair. That's the only.
Yeah, but did you notice your mother doing anything with the remedy?
No. Well, it's interesting. So in 1998, I joined Citibank. My brother tells a story that he and my mom returned to Trinidad in 1998.
Okay.
He said he doesn't remember why, but she insisted that they had to find the ingredient that we call PRE.
Okay.
He said they searched all over the country, and finally they went back to a pharmacy in the village where she lived. They found 4 marble-sized pieces of the ingredient. They bought all 4.
Gotcha.
Lord, 15 years later, the remnant of those, he had about a fingernail-sized piece left in his medicine cabinet. That's what we used on my son's ankle. So check this out. Most ingredients, take CBD, after 6 months of exposure, it begins to degrade. This plant ingredient sat for 15 years in his medicine cabinet and had no degradation.
Gotcha.
Right? And so, and so as I'm writing the book, what I'm realizing is what I thought started a decade ago really didn't start a decade ago. There was a series of incidents that took place long before I knew about it that was setting everything in place.
Gotcha. So Burcell has a question here for you. And so basically he's congratulating, but he wants you to describe your revenue model for doing everything international.
Okay. So great question. So part of being so us a company within the USF incubator, they bring in the U.S. military to meet with us to share opportunities. We have sessions on SBIR and all of those types of things. The other thing that they did was they brought in the U.S. Department of Commerce. So one of the charters of the U.S. Department of Commerce is export. Every embassy, it's about 108 embassies across the globe. One of their job is to facilitate the increase of exports into that country.
Yes.
So what I've been able to do is basically expand my team free, because those U.S. embassy employees become my resources. So right now, I'm working with the U.S. Department of Commerce, and they've got resources in country, in 5 different countries, reaching out to distributors on my behalf. There are calls that take place every month or so. If you have skincare, cosmetics. I mean, it's because think about it, it's a big world with 7 billion people. All of these people need products. In fact, I was on a call last year with the embassy in Brazil.
Gotcha.
And the Black people in Brazil said, we want Black products. We're 60% Black in Brazil. We don't want this stuff that you've been providing to us before. We want Black products. I was like, what a great opportunity for Black-owned skincare, right? And so I'm trying to think so I may have to send it to you after the fact and you could share it, Lloyd, but the U.S. Department of Commerce has offices in every city.
Yes.
And so you just need to contact your U.S. Department of Commerce office, and they will walk you through the program. In 2019, pre-COVID, I attended an expo in Dusseldorf, Germany, that the Department of Commerce funded. Okay. I received a scholarship, maybe that value had about $7,000, where they did a market assessment for me. And why is that important? Because of the type of product that I have. Well, really any type of product. Just as you have an FDA in the States, right?
Yeah.
Every country has its FDA equivalent. And so I wanted to understand the regulatory path across the globe so that countries where the regulatory barrier to entry is low, those would be the countries that we prioritize. Okay?
Right.
So the US is the easiest country to register products. If you've got a cosmetic product, no problem. Not so easy outside of the US, but you have these embassy resources that can connect you. And oftentimes the Department of Commerce is funding some of it. The other thing I want to share regarding the US Department of Commerce, they have what's called an export and import bank. If you work with a distributor internationally and that distributor writes you a PO, let's say 100,000, this export import bank, part of the US Department of Commerce, they will fund you money up front, give you working capital so that you can get that inventory, right?
Right.
So, and here's the beauty of exporting. You don't have to worry about marketing the brand. You don't have to, all you're doing is selling the product to a distributor.
Yes. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah.
And so that's a huge upside opportunity for for Black-owned companies, because the kinds of products, again, if you're in skincare, you cosmetics, whatever, you've got Black and brown people all over. In fact, there are more Black and brown people in the world than none, right?
Yeah. So so the lady that was on the video at the beginning selling the hair care product, and so she sounded like she would be a good candidate, for that program. And we got another several companies that are doing well, but I'm sure I haven't heard any of them talking like the stuff you're talking about.
Right. So Ms. Vance asked the question about the revenue model.
Yeah.
So Ms. Vance, in January, we signed our first international contract for Western Europe, Africa, Bangladesh, and the Caribbean. And if everything goes according to plan, it's a 3-year contract. Year 1 is 200,000 units, the MOQ. Year 2, 500,000. Year 3, 1 million units. And if you're doing the math, that's about $17 million. Okay. And that's one contract. and it's a big world, right? That you could do deals in Latin America, in South America, in Canada, in Mexico, right? So there's massive opportunity. What is the average cost per purchase? That question is not clear.
Yeah, so basically, let's say if you have a tube or whatever your product is.
I see. Okay. So my MSRP, and so we're launching two products, a gel product and a spray product, and for our pre-cover. And so let's say MSRP is $40, right? My landed cost to that distributor is about $12.50. Okay. And then because the distributor then is going to sell it to a sub distributor, that sub distributor will sell it to a retailer. So I'm selling it for about, let's say 13, the MSRP is 40. And my job now is to hold my COGS, my cost of good, down around, as low as I can, because but again, once I ship those products, that's just revenue. I don't have anything else to do with that. I don't have to worry about the marketing. I don't have those costs. Where domestically, right, I've got to spend marketing. I've got to, if I put my products on shelves, I'm not only paying that retailer for the margin, but I've got to pay A&P, which is advertisement and promotion. So generally, you're giving up almost 60% of your margin domestically. And so really the math is about the same going internationally, and you don't have the work. So I think it's something that that definitely should be explored.
Yeah. So what did you say that suggested retail price was?
So for my product, the MSRP is one is $40 and the other one is, I think, 36, right?
Gotcha.
So when you working and I have a model that I use, I simply, I know my COGS, right? And so I put in the MSRP and it automatically calculates what the different levels are. So in that scenario, you dealing with a distributor, but that distributor is either going to sell directly to a retailer in that country, or they're going to sell it to a sub distributor. So they have to have enough margin in there that, the guy I'm selling it to, he may make $2 a unit, but if he turns enough, 500,000 units, he cleared $1 million. And the next guy could make $2, and then the retailer, has to have that 45% margin. The size of my team. So my team.
Hold up before you answer that question. Hold up before you answer that question. So what I heard was you got embassies all over the country working on your behalf. You got Department of Commerce working on your behalf. That's what I heard.
Can I add one more thing?
Yeah.
Because of the novelty of my brand, when we launch in a country, we can actually have a launch party at the embassy in that country and invite all local media. That's offered by the U.S. Department of Commerce. Guys, these are things that we just don't have we're not privy to, but it's there.
Well, yeah, and that's why I call this an event startup best practices, so you can learn the best practices for building a startup. And so I think people don't really get it. Now, some founders don't really get it. You can stay, not tuned in, but you're missing out on information that can actually help take you to the next level.
Indeed.
Yeah. But I think what he's really asking is your team locally, kind of, I think what he's really getting at.
Yeah. So it's just my son and myself are full-time now. And then I have probably another 6 or 8 people that are doing sweat equity, right?
Yeah.
My CMO is based in Budapest. My CFO is based in the UK, and I have other team members. And at some point, right, most of those folks will actually come on board full time. And oh, by the way, the people that are with you initially are not necessarily always the right fit for the next phase.
Yeah.
So they'll get the equity because they put in that sweat, but I have to make decisions, right? And so think about it as a rocket, right? So a rocket needs many, many boosters to get off the ground. But once it's in orbit, it's dropping off the boosters. So I'll, you know, as a founder, you get hard decisions to make, right? You have to say, well, you served your purpose here, but you may not be a good fit for the
operational stuff
or the sales space or whatever the case. We may have to go out and bring in new resources, but you know, you're going to get your, you know, whatever percentage of the company that, you know, you're entitled.
But that's also best practices, how you get past, you know, that -2 to 0 to +1. It's like you recruit team members and you offer them, you know, the small amount of equity to kind of support what you're actually doing, and so instead of, you know, actually, so that's just one way to one of the best practices.
There's a very good book called Slice and Pie that I would suggest everyone should read.
So you're familiar with that?
Yeah. So right now, my pie is baking in the oven, and I've already started having hard conversations with people who were there at the very beginning, because I don't necessarily see a role for them in the next phase.
So I'm glad you mentioned that. So you took that slicing pie thing to heart, and that's the approach you're using. So you're the first person I've heard about that in the first accelerator program I was in. But that's fantastic. And what I'm probably going to try to get that guy to come on so he can like actually explain it to everybody. That's a really good approach for getting started.
Yeah, and just quickly for your audience, so let's say you start and a person got 2% equity in the beginning, but life caused them to kind of go in a different direction, and so they only stuck around for a period. So what Slicing Pie says, you have to have a come to Jesus conversation to say, well, you were offered this, but you didn't run the race all the way through. So we're going to adjust that, because I've got to give a percentage of that to somebody else. And so as a founder, you got to be prepared to have those kind of conversations. And as long as it's being done fairly and equitably, then, you know, most people are good with it.
Yes, that's really, really, really fantastic. So audience, you got it. Now there's a lot more Caleb can tell you, but do you mind sharing the idea of how you get a natural product into the situation where you have it now, where you know you got it protected, and how you have it protected?
Okay, all right. So great. So a natural ingredient, no one can own a natural ingredient. And so what you have to do is you file what we call utility formulation patents. And so we have, we now have a patent for the most active ingredient. That's patent approved. We've got patents pending for the muscle soreness piece of it. And so, but because no one can own the ingredient, what the U.S. Department of Commerce says is that if you modify the plant and you make it what they call markedly different, you could then own it. So let me give you an example of a plant that was made markedly different. I think most people know stevia, right? The sweetener.
Yeah.
So one time, Cargill was bringing that plant up from South America, similar to how I'm bringing PRE up from the Caribbean. And Cargill and Coca-Cola got together, and they went through about a 9-month, 1 year innovative process, similar to what my team is doing now. And they removed what they call non-essential chemicals. So what's a non-essential? Smell is non-essential. Taste is a non-essential. And every plant, no matter what it is, may have some toxic chemicals in there, right?
Yeah.
So if you have to identify and remove those chemicals. When you put it back together, you can own that. And so that's where we expect to be by the end of this year. And so we will be the first company, Black-owned company, I believe in the history of mankind, to ever control an ingredient that can power products across all categories. So in the future, guys, you will see PRE. You'll see it available for coffee and for tea and for skin care and for cosmetics and pet care and pain care and the likes. And so if you think about CBD and how vast CBD is, imagine if one person, right, company controlled all of CBD. That's where we expect to be. We have that global intellectual property control.
Yeah. So I think you dropped a lot of nuggets here. One of the things I heard you say that a lot of these countries that have a lot of Black people in it, they're tired of getting white products pushed to them. They want some Black products.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes. And that means opportunities for Black companies in the States.
Yes. And so the Department of Commerce can help and get, there's a lot of different, government agencies that can help, but the Department of Commerce can actually help, and all the embassies can help. This is the first time I ever heard the embassies playing a role in what you're saying. I thought it was just playing a role in when you get into the country or something, but I didn't realize they got involved into the economics of this stuff there as well.
That is one of their major objectives, driving imports into those countries.
Yeah, and then all of these folks that are making these natural products, and they're concerned about their. So, like one of the founders we have, she's afraid to, let somebody manufacture her product because they'll learn the trade secrets. So. Right. So how are you doing the manufacturing of your product? So your trade secrets are not getting out of the door or whatever.
So there's two things that she can do. Every company that she works with should sign an NDA.
Gotcha.
And they should sign her NDA, not their NDA.
Gotcha. Okay.
Second thing is, if she in fact owns or has a secret kind of ingredient, she should have them sign what's called an MTA, Material Transfer Agreement. And
Material Transfer Agreement. I never heard of that one.
Right. And what that says is anything you do with that ingredient belongs to me. You can choose to research, you can do whatever, but at the end of the day, any new technology, any new findings that come from that ingredient, it belongs to me. And so you support the NDA with an MTA.
Okay, never heard of that. Okay, so you're dropping a lot of knowledge here tonight. Tell us about the program you were in at University of South Florida because it sounds like. It sounds pretty interesting. So, but just briefly tell us a little bit about that one.
Okay. So, as I mentioned, we made our first generation product brand called Relieve It. I went in, I met with the decision makers who run the technology incubator. I basically said, look, guys, if you could help me back 100 years of anecdotal evidence with science, we can impact the world.
Gotcha.
What I thought going into the program was that there would be all these resources there to kind of hold my hand because I was doing it for the first time. Doesn't work that way. What I learned was that I'm at a university with every scientist, every kind of medical, that everything's available, but I had to go get it. Right. And so I was introduced to a team of scientists, the head of the Department of Chemistry, one of the top natural products scientists in the country, and they were my first team, right? And so, in fact, just within the last year and a half, we now know that my ingredient PRE outperforms ibuprofen and naproxen at 1/2 the strength.
Gotcha. Okay, that's
fantastic. So those guys were the initial group, and then when it was time to figure out, okay, how do we now go through that process that I described to create this mixture? I then had to go engage with the School of Pharmacy because Department of Chemistry, they don't have the skill sets to transform it into a mixture and do the types of things. So now I'm working with the Department of Chemistry. I want to do what's called a skin permeability study to prove how quickly my product, my ingredient, permeates the skin. Because remember, I told you muscle soreness takes place from it's tearing of the muscle. I want to show that our product is getting to the muscle layer so that consumers can compare it to the stuff that they're using that's just sitting on the skin surface, right? So I have to go to another department to do that. So all of the departments are there. We did 2022 an endurance clinical study with 66 runners, so where we validated the hypothesis that our product does in fact prevent soreness. I had to go get with the exercise department, science department, right?
Okay.
But I had to go do the work. I sent an email like, okay, can somebody introduce me to, this is what I need. Can somebody make an introduction?
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm getting ready to have meetings with the dean of pharmacy, the athletic head, the head of the athletic department, and I want to meet with the president of the university. Why do I want to meet with the president of the university? We have what's akin to Gatorade on the campus, right? She needs to know about it. And so what basically, long story short, is that I figured out I got to go make it happen myself. And that's what I do. Okay.
Yeah, and so it looks like versatile question. I have one too here.
Does it have an oral application? It will in about the next 9 months. And so we applied. We sent a proposal to NSF for funding to create that oral ingestible. And so because it's so critical, my teams of researchers have actually agreed to get it started while we await funding from NSF.
Yeah, and that was part of what my question was going to be. So it sounded like you leveraged the university. So did the university want some equity in your company, or did you have to fund the research that they did?
Yeah. So yes and yes.
Okay. I mean, they want equity, and plus they want you to pay too.
So every time any new IP that I couldn't have gotten without them, they own a percentage of that. Kind of like, I don't know if your audience are aware that University of Florida has received almost $6 million a year for the last 57 years from Gatorade because they own a piece of that. So that once that team isolated and patented and so forth, PRE, USF owns a piece of that. If they do the ingestible, guess what, guys? I can't do the ingestible myself. When they do that, they'll own a piece of the IP. But that's okay, right? Because a small piece of a massive pie is still, there's nothing wrong with it. And I can't get there by myself.
Gotcha. Yeah. So that's pretty insightful. And so, but understanding all this, I think you shared a lot of things that are very useful, and so we kind of want to make sure you definitely got Vercel's attention here. Yeah, and Brian is an investor. I just want you to know that.
Who is?
Ron, the guy was asking about the price, and he's an investor.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah,
well, he definitely needs to come talk to me after we're done.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Yeah. So Vercel's about talking about known side effects.
Yeah. So the only known side effect is that every natural plant, someone has some type of allergy to a natural plant. So in our first generation Relieve It product, we had some complaints about skin irritation. So our next version, which is pre-cover, we've added aloe vera to that, and the testing shows that we've addressed that skin irritability issue.
Yeah, fantastic.
So let me just add this. When we launched the first generation Relieve It brand, it wasn't perfect by any stretch of imagination. But what it did for us, it allowed us to learn stuff over the last couple of years. right?
Right.
When you get customer feedback, that's how you perfect your next version. So V1 doesn't have to be perfect, is the point.
Right. Okay, fantastic. So, yeah, so do you have any parting comments here? I think you dropped more nuggets than we ever had in one show here.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but yeah, it just shows the power of connection and meeting people, and our and so part of my communication about what we're doing is closing that knowledge gap, because that's what's holding people back, is they don't know what to do. And so
Yes.
you connect with other founders to kind of, so you can actually learn what to do and learn what they've learned, and so on and so forth.
Last thing I want to share is that I've been conducting a set of meetings over the last couple of months that I call wealth generation presentation. And so
Yeah.
It's not often that we get an opportunity to hear about something like PRE in this stage.
Yes.
We learn about it when the brand is already launched and we are consumers of the product. And I want everybody on the call to consume. But the point that I'm making is that if you have the financial wherewithal, or you know of people that do, I want people that look like us to have an opportunity to invest in something that's going to change the world.
Right.
Here's the thing about it. I tell people all the time, tech is fantastic, right?
Mm-hmm.
But 2 years, 5 years down the road, it'll be a new shiny toy. A natural ingredient has been around for thousands of years and will be here long after we're gone. So if we can own and control it, you're talking generational legacy wealth.
That's exactly right. And so I can't wait till you meet Dr. White, because you're all gonna hit it off, Dr. LaTanya White. So if I can get you up here in April, man, you know, just check your calendar for the 19th and 20th of April.
Okay.
Yeah. So your story is definitely gonna rock the world. So yeah, we definitely appreciate you taking the time. You know, and when we met Tuesday night, you know, you were sincere about what you were doing, and you're committed about what you're doing, and that just goes to show you coming on here tonight to kind of share what you're doing. You know, and I really appreciate that.
My pleasure. I appreciate the invitation.
Okay. All right. If you hold on just a second, I'm going to go ahead and end the broadcast. Everybody in the audience, we really appreciate that, and we're going to make sure the information gets out to those founders that have these natural products, and at least know some things that they can do to kind of move things forward. Man, all this opportunity that the people in all these other countries are demanding Black products.
More Black and brown in the world than anybody else.
All right, so fantastic. Everyone, we'll see you all next week, and have a good week forward.